Hey everybody, welcome to our next session in our Learning Tech Showcase on reinforcement tools. This session is brought to us by NovoEd on building a comprehensive talent development approach with learning, mentoring, and practice. I'm Elizabeth here at Training Industry, and I'm so happy you all decided to join us for this session. Before we get started, I do have just a few housekeeping items to review to help you get the most out of your time with us. Throughout today's event, please feel free to use the chat for any comments you have and submit any questions you have in that Q&A panel. We'll do our best to address your questions throughout the event or at the end during our Q&A section. At the end of the event, we do invite you to share your feedback in a survey that pops open in your browser. We'd love your thoughts. And as always, today's session will be recorded and archived on trainingindustry.com. You'll receive a follow-up email from us when those recordings are available. If this is your first Training Industry event, a special welcome goes out to you. Training Industry exists to make connections among learning and development professionals like you. We offer tons of resources to support you in your role through live events like today's Learning Tech Showcase, as well as through articles on our website, our magazine, conferences, research reports, courses, podcasts. We would love to also hear about what you've learned today on social media. So please follow us on your favorite platforms and share any takeaways you have from there. Now, without any further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our speaker for the next 30 minutes, Juan Morán, Senior Solutions Consultant at NovoEd. Juan, I will let you take it from here.
All right. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. And as I'm going through this, I want to encourage the audience to go ahead and ask, your questions, put them in the chat. Happy to take them as we go. Well, happy Monday, everybody. And for those of you celebrating, happy Central American Independence Day. I'm happy to be here, and I want to thank Training Industry for inviting me to be a part of this. And I love today's theme about reinforcement. I'm going to be talking about our talent development platform and exactly how you can utilize it to reinforce the type of learning you want to happen in your programs and other initiatives, such as mentoring. If you're familiar with NovoEd, we've been around since 2012. Maybe you've heard of it as like a cohort learning platform or a collaborative learning platform, which is very much what we were up until about the end of last year. We've actually invested a lot to do more than just programmatic learning. We've invested a lot more in being able to support not just one-to-many learning, but one-to-one learning through mentoring, and also in practical, relevant practice as well to help support grounded, real-world, scenario-based learning as well through our practice features as well. What you're seeing on the slide here is something we very much believe in at NovoEd. We really think that talent development initiatives like organizationally led learning, practice and application and mentoring really should be all tied together in virtuous cycles of improvement. I know the theme of today, it's not just reinforcement, but also like making sure you're reinforcing, what your desired business outcomes are. And that's something we very much believe at NovoEd too. The initiatives I just mentioned should all be tied to your business outcomes, and you should be measuring those across your initiatives. We want to enable you to be able to do that with the NovoEd platform. We think it's this type of like interactive development, right? Where you're learning with others, whether that's in a program with peers in a cohort, or through one-to-one mentoring, or through, again, peers going through practice and giving each other feedback. That all should be very interactive and engaging. And you can make it stickier, can make that learning a lot stickier if people really get to engage it and get hands-on. And another great benefit is it'll increase the business impact of all that work. So you can see on my slide here, we see a correlation. The more effort you put in to bringing people together, not just supporting like learning and mentoring, but also fostering connections. And we talk about reinforcement. Um, we don't just see it in terms of like specific skills you're trying to reinforce in the learning, but also things like your organizational culture, your values. How do you make sure those are embedded in the learning as well? So the way we achieve that is through the NovoEd talent development platform. So at the end of last year in December, we launched our new Mentor Plus product for supporting those one-to-one learning initiatives. And we've had Practice Plus now for a couple of years, but we're now moving towards making it available as its own product for, again, like I mentioned earlier, scenario-based learning. We built a unified talent development platform so you can have all these different components of learning all in one place, in one platform. And it's on one technology stack, easy to implement. Most of our customers take 4 to 6 weeks to implement NovoEd. And it's really designed for the enterprise. Most of our customers are Fortune 500 customers, but we also do work with external training providers like executive education providers and higher ed and training providers as well. And some of the benefits you would get with like a single talent development platform like this is you got a single point of integration, unified performance data. So easy to see what's working, what's not, and are you really achieving those desired business outcomes? And it also centralizes all the administration too. It makes it easy for whoever's running these, programs, facilitating them, what have you, building them maybe as the social designers, just easy to access and maintain because we're also very committed to being able to scale this very like high touch, high value, high impact type of learning. When we originally launched NovoEd, it was to fill a gap in the technology stack for the kind of learning that most of our customers are doing in person and facilitating in person. So we want to enable you to like, hey, let's democratize that kind of learning because it tends to be a limited budget for a limited few learners. And let's make it available potentially to everyone within your organization without losing any of that great impact. And one of the other things we've really invested in as well over the last few years in NovoEd is in AI, right? And that includes both machine learning for things like insights and also Gen AI for things like automating course creation, for example, as a instructional designer. Again, this is to enable you to scale, this kind of high impact learning. It also makes sure it's, making you achieve those business outcomes I mentioned earlier. So let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to go into a live demo here, and I'm an employee. I'm within I'm an employee within the organization, and I'm a learner and a mentor, a mentee rather. And I'm just going to use leadership development as today's example for a use case. So I am in Learn Plus right now. Practice Plus is actually embedded in Learn Plus, as well as serving as a standalone. And this all is part of the same platform, along with Mentor Plus, which you'll see in just a moment. This is a cohort-based time-bound program, which a lot of our customers do, but you do have the ability to do self-paced learning, and you can bundle different courses and programs together into learning paths that we call learning journeys, and those could be sequential or even choose your own adventure. So you'll see this is a leadership development program that's part of my Digital Capability Academy. And I'm logged in as Leah here. And as you can see, I'm participating in the program with several different peers. And it is a facilitated program because a lot of these high impact programs tend to be very strategic to the organization. And then they're therefore very, very much guided or facilitated experiences. Again, making sure we're not just going through learning content, but we're bringing context and conversations and even our culture, into that learning as well. And, a lot of facilitators deserve the credit for making sure we stay on task for that. This is my homepage for the program. As you can see, as a learner, I can easily track my progress as I'm going through. And I want to emphasize some of those features that we have that enable you to reinforce, your desired learning. So one of the things I wanted to mention, for example, I mentioned NovoAI. We have AI for things like automated course translations. So I mentioned we work with a lot of Fortune 500 companies. Many of them are global, and they're often running these programs as global programs. So they love that their employees can switch to whatever their preferred language is. They love that they don't have to make different versions of the same program in different languages for different audiences. And it's not just helping with scaling and making the work of the admin easier, but it also helps break down silos, and bring people together and maintain a more, diverse, cohort of learners. And for a lot of our customers, they love the diversity of thought, right? People have different experiences, different levels of expertise, different insights. They love enabling that to come in. By the way, I've been talking so much about our platform. One of the things I did want to mention is that we're also very committed to ecosystem interoperability. So you can integrate NovoEd with your LMS, LXP. We have pre-built integrations with many other platforms in the market, like Saba, SumTotal, LearnUpon, Cornerstone, as well as like LXPs like Degreed and Adcast. Also, a lot of our customers are using other tools for more blended learning. So a lot of what I'm showing is asynchronous, also to enable you to scale this, especially globally. But you do have the ability to have like live meetings. We integrate directly with Zoom and Microsoft 365, which would include like Teams meetings. We have a team chatbot to make sure you're up to date on what's happening in your learning and mentoring programs when you're in Microsoft Teams. And we also integrate with calendar tools like Outlook. So like your live sessions and due dates for things like assignments can automatically populate in your calendar. In fact, as an employee, I'm getting a little nudge here. You could also set up automated communications that are not just triggered based on like a specific date and time, like, a welcome message on day one of your program, but also on things like friendly reminders for due dates. So you can have some automated nudges. This one's letting me know that there's a session starting in Teams or Zoom, or you could use some other product like WebEx as well to be able to support those live events too. One thing I wanted to point out is we're not a content provider, but we are content agnostic. We provide native authoring tools so you can build your content in NovoEd. All this content was built natively here. We also enable you to upload files, like maybe like video files, for example, or maybe you've got like some slides you want to share with people. And we also integrate with third-party content providers like LinkedIn. We're also SCORM compliant if you want to bring in your SCORM content in here. So we make it really easy to either build your content here or bring in your existing content, and then also make it easy, as I mentioned before, to bring conversations to that content. Because again, we're trying to make sure that all the learning is in the context of your specific program for your organization. So for example, I have people who are watching videos and then having conversations about those. One of the things we've done here is we've scaled the facilitation. We have automated prompts for things like discussions. Within the discussion, you're going to notice people are contributing in multiple languages. The translation feature we have within NovoAI, it doesn't just apply to your content, it also applies to your interactions within the program. So people can share insights in whatever their preferred language is, and then I could just click a button, like I just did now, to just translate someone's comment, like from simplified Chinese in this example to English, because I have that set up as my preferred language. We also have some automation available in NovoEd's AI features to do things like automatically add closed captions to your content, like videos, create transcripts, automatically translate those transcripts. Again, all for the sake of scaling and also making the content that much more accessible to your participants. But it's not just translations. I mentioned we give you insights as well. So these are insights from NovoAI. It's actually looking at all the posts to date within that discussion and pulling out key takeaways. And once I submit a comment as a participant in the program, NovoAI is going to not just give me the key themes, but also give me maybe a similar or different perspective, based on what it's seen so far. So it's like, hey, in this case, Leah, um, maybe you might want to take a look at what John wrote. He has a very different way of looking things, and of course that's all part of the learning, right? We're trying to make this learning very much applicable. Now, NovoEd, we do have a lot of the what probably we would consider like table stakes functionality in a learning platform. So like assignments, surveys, polls, etc. All that is available out of the box with NovoEd. So it's easy to create like an assignment. I could have a web form I create and have people submit. I can decide, what format I want the assignment submission to come in, whether it's like record yourself giving a presentation or upload your slides or upload a document. But we want to take that into like a deeper level of learning. So this is where, again, people know us for being very collaborative and social. Um, Here I'm enabling people to do a peer review. Again, they're going to learn from each other, right? They're going to be able to see what other people maybe created or commented on in the program, and then be able to give each other some feedback on that. So that's one way we could support reinforcement, right? Is have people not just practice and apply the learning itself, but practice and apply critical thinking around the learning, right? And again, it helps make it stickier. One of the key differentiators about our platform, a lot of our customers like to call out, is team-based learning that we support in addition to the peer-based learning. So I can have people break out into teams, kind of like they would in person, right? Maybe you'll have them sit around like a small table in groups of like 4 to 6, or have them go into a different conference room to maybe work on something together. That's something we've enabled you to do in NovoEd. I can have people automatically put in teams. I can have them form their own teams depending on how I want to configure this. And then I give them team-specific discussions to work on and team assignments and a place to do the work. So every like team, and we support groups too for like interest groups, for example, affinity groups. But in what you're seeing on the left side of the screen here is a workspace for all those teams and groups where people can get together. They can share their comment. They can have ad hoc conversations. They can set up their own meetings. This is part of that integration I mentioned with Microsoft Teams. Maybe they're going to do a team assignment where they're going to do a role play and they're going to take turns in this leadership program, going through like scenarios where they have to be a manager and then switch to be an employee, for example, and get practice and feedback at doing that. In NovoEd, we enable you to do that in a lot of different ways. And that includes making it very much skill-based, right? So a lot of our customers refer to NovoEd as their upskilling platform. So in NovoEd, you can, for example, integrate with your skills library, or you can create a skills library from scratch here if you want to, and then align skills to content or courses or activities or assessments so that people are getting feedback according to those specific skills. So you can see here's another assignment where I had people talk about their leadership style. They wrote about it. They uploaded photos that illustrate those learning styles. And you'll see here on the right side, they're getting feedback. And this is configurable in terms of like who's going to give the feedback to. It could be peers, but it could be the facilitator. It could be managers you're enrolling in the program too. Very flexible. But you see, I can make sure people stay on task in terms of that feedback, right? I want you to like look at what the person submitted and tell me, are they being empathetic, right? These are some leadership skills we're trying to enable them to develop. Are they solving problems, right? Are they thinking strategically? Give them some feedback on a scale of 1 to 5 stars and provide some commentary too, if you like. Those are all assignments I just showed you, right? Very much application, right? But a lot of our customers said, we want to like enable participants to iterate too. Can we do that? But we don't want them resubmitting the assignment over and over again. Can you create some kind of like a practice activity, right? So that's where Practice Plus comes in, right? Everything you've seen so far is part of Learn Plus, and Practice Plus is part of that as well. I mentioned maybe like in my team assignment, people are practicing, taking turns being a manager and being an employee. And maybe one of the things they're working on is addressing difficult conversations. Well, before I have them go into an assignment to do that, I'm going to provide them a safe place to be able to practice and iterate as much as they want, to get more comfortable, build their confidence, and still also get feedback. right? So in my program, I've got people already submitting a lot of practice, um, and let me show you what that looks like from someone who's already done a lot of this. Um, you go into a practice room to complete these practice activities. The room could be embedded in your learning programs, but it can also be on its own. It's just part of the main navigation in NovoEd. This particular participant, as you could see, has practiced many times, right? And they are getting a lot of different types of feedback while they're doing this. For example, just to kind of illustrate what this looks like, um, clicked out of that. This is what a practice thing could look like. I can provide people with scenarios. So think of it. They could be video based or text based or both. This doesn't have to be like a video practice. It could be audio only as well. We have customers doing it that way. And you'll see I could share my screen. I could show myself. Maybe you might want to watch me speak to something and observe like my body language, nonverbal cues, things like that. All right, so I get a little countdown. I can submit how I'm going to respond to something. You can also make this higher stakes, like maybe we call it on the spot. Um, you can have people not be able to back out as they're working on that practice, right? So you can certainly do that. And you'll notice in the practice, people are giving each other comments, right? The comments can be text-based, could be also video-based comments. We can also give skill-specific feedback, like you saw earlier in that individual assignment. And then NovoEI can also come in and provide you some feedback. So the feedback you've seen so far, it's all coming from human beings. But this is where NovoEI can do things like give you instant metrics. So you could see, for example, your rate of speech. Are you talking too fast or too slow? You could see whether you're using filler words, right? This is the last time my participant here practiced, but earlier you'll notice she didn't do as well. She was talking faster or slower. She was using a lot more filler words before. And you don't need to do anything in NovoEd to set up, these metrics to get reported. It's automatic. But you do have control over like the things you want NovoEd to look for. So you'll notice there are key phrases mentioned and key phrases to be avoided. Those are things the admin configured, right? I want to make sure people are saying this and not saying that, right? And the AI will catch that and report it back to the learner as well. It's great. So like the participants don't have to wait for someone to have the time to give that feedback, right? They get this feedback literally with like a second or two after submitting their practice in here. Now, that's all part of like Learn Plus, and what you just saw was Practice Plus. We know there's more to developing talent and skill building than working in programmatic learning, right? In NovoEd, within Learn Plus, we've always given you the ability to pair someone with a mentor, and then they get to kind of observe the mentee as a learner in the learning program. But we wanted to take that a step further. We heard from a lot of customers that they had challenges running their mentoring programs. And these are high value, high impact programs as well. And they're often tied to the learning programs that people might be running in like cohorts, for example. So this is the companion program for my leadership development cohort program, but this is a mentoring program called Let's Elevate, also for leaders. So what we've done here is we've given you a place to do the mentoring. We also solved the critical problem for a lot of our customers, and that's doing the matching, because a lot of them were doing it manually, maybe doing it like in a spreadsheet. So we've got a NovoEI to do things like automatically pair people. We have our integrations with things like Zoom and Microsoft Teams for people to have their one-on-one sessions, virtually. And it's really easy to be able to also do things like goal setting and tracking progress and things like that, right? Oh, by the way, the integrations I mentioned before are across the board. So that includes things like our, Microsoft Teams chatbot. We can absolutely meet your employees where they are, right? We know they're often using some kind of collaboration tool like Microsoft Teams, for example. Now, that's a little bit of Mentor Plus from the mentees experience, right? So now you've seen really the whole NovoEd platform, but all from the NovoEd, the employee experience, that is, right? I also wanted to show you what does this look like as you're, managing all this. So let me introduce you to Denise. And she is a designer and a facilitator and running all these different programs, right? So I mentioned one of the things we want to enable you to do is scale this kind of like, high impact learning. So that would include doing things like being able to access automated analytics. We offer them at the course level and in a variety of different ways. You'll see I can look at activities, skill-based learning, data by cohort, for example. So I can do comparisons of different cohorts. But I can also look at this from even a higher elevation and do things like review org level data, right? Maybe I might want to compare my leadership programs to things like my onboarding programs, my sales enablement programs. Are there lessons to be learned in terms of looking at different trends or patterns? What's been really effective for things like engagement, not just completion, but also engagement and applicability, right, of the learning itself. And I can get granular too, right? I could drill down into things like my practice activities and look at skill progression over time. Look at individuals. By the way, these are all analytics and reports that are provided out of the box. We make it really easy to get the data out into different formats. We also have APIs to be able to pull this into like business intelligence tools as well, right? So that's one of the ways we're enabling admins to make sure you're focusing on those desired business outcomes, right? Another way we do it is by enabling you to scale the actual learning experiences. So we do things like offer you templates you could utilize. AI is really popular nowadays. What we've done is we've taken best practices from our current customers and used those to compile these different templates. So you don't have to start from scratch. You could start with what's worked for other NovoEd clients. I mentioned Gen AI. We have also Gen AI tools to help you build the experiences. So for example, I started building a course from scratch, right? Instead of using a template. And I've got my AI creation assistant as part of NovoAI. You'll notice here I can drag and drop files into NovoEd. So when I do that and I give NovoEd or NovoAI specifically, a couple minutes, it's going to go ahead and start building out my course for me, right? That way I could focus more on developing things like activities, although we're about to release an enhancement to this to also automatically create activities. But then you can pick and choose whatever you want to utilize here. And you can always add, right? I'm in edit mode right now as a course builder. And you'll notice I can add things like a summary, key takeaways, a discussion, a quiz. NovoAI will build it for me. I could just select what I want, where to pull information from. So go ahead and look at this section, this module, and all the content I already provided there, and build a quiz for me, right? So of course I could build a quiz manually, write out the questions, write out the answers. And in NovoEd, we can also do automated feedback as well. But here, NovoEd can help me, right? And I'm always in control. I could pick, what I like. I can reword it. Oh, by the way, we even released an enhancement for you to change the way NovoEd translates things, because maybe you use different terminology internally, for example. So it's just another great way to be able to scale this. And that applies to mentoring, right? All that was, Learn Plus as an admin. Here I'm in Mentor Plus. You'll notice I could set up automated matching, right? I could set up rules. So our customers integrate with their systems of record. So we often integrate with like your HR system, and we can pull in data we know about your employees. But you can also set up, attributes specific to your mentoring programs. Like, we'll find out, we're going to do surveys amongst the prospective mentees, and we're going to ask them, what do you want to work on, for example? What's your learning style? And then I could tell Mentor Plus, now match them with their mentors, and here are the rules to apply. I could set up nice to haves, must haves, and preferences in between. I can make sure people who are different are matched together, or maybe people who are similar matched together. So really easy to be able to do that. And again, be able to measure the effectiveness of all of that through automated analytics. So I'm going to stop sharing. I think I saw a couple questions come in the chat and would love to address those. Does NovoEd replace the need for a separate LMS? This comes up more and more. You know what? Maybe. We've had customers migrate all their programs from an LMS or even an LXP to NovoEd, right? Because they want to have more of this very interactive, engaging, high impact type of experience. So it's possible. We even have a lot of LMS-y features I didn't even talk about, like a central repository we call the lesson library. So it's possible. It just depends on what you're trying to achieve. And another question is, oh yeah, so as Elizabeth is saying, if anyone else has any questions, please feel free to ask, but I think we got about another minute. I'm happy to take any other questions or hand it back to Elizabeth to wrap it
There
up.
was one other question that came through the Q&A.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a little bit more of maybe learning theory for you, but
Oh, I found
Thomas
it.
is asking, is the passage of time itself essential to the diminishing effort required in the process of learning?
Yeah, as human beings, we only retain like a certain percentage of what we're learning, right? Um, we think that is relevant. And this is another benefit a lot of our customers have seen from migrating from in-person to NovoEd is when they do these kind of programs in person, they tend to fly people out and sequester them. And maybe it's a full day of learning together or 2 days, right? So it could be a mind dump for a lot of those participants and challenging to try to remember everything. So how about this? Use NovoEd instead. And instead of having like an 8-hour, 1 day experience, you're going to do 1 hour a week for 8 weeks, right? And spread that learning out. So it's easier to be able to, consume and apply and retain the learning. So yeah, I think, learning over time is a real critical thing you have to look at. Good question.
Perfect. Well, with that, we are at time. So, Juan, thank you for your time with us and for the session.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Take care.
All right, everybody. Up next, we are taking a 15-minute break so you can grab coffee, a snack, whatever you need. And then we will hear from Caitlin Dalton and Amy O'Shea with QStream for their session, Fast, Easy, and Effective Reinforcement Training Powered by AI. So in just a moment, I'll end this session and you can join our next session by returning to the event lobby and going to the session tab. I hope to see you there.